classic North American downtown, shining, towering forest of steel and glass. Standing here, Toronto could resemble so many other cities. I've only ever spent 3 days of my entire life here in Canada's largest city. But now I'm here, I'm on the ground, I'm coming in fresh, I'm coming in curious, I'm ready to seek out Toronto's unique urban fingerprint. And in order to do that, I have to escape this anonymous, faceless place. For a long time, cliches about Toronto were legion. Straight, stuck up, and corporate. But trust me, things have changed dramatically in Canada's financial hub. Toronto has turned things around to become a magnet for all things cultural and artistic, a haven for food lovers, and an all-round stimulating place to be. People from pretty much every corner of the globe now call Toronto home. We're talking 200 ethnicities in 140 neighborhoods. Yet, as Toronto continues its stunning population growth, it is paradoxically becoming more and more human. It's kind of weird coming here early in the morning. It's so quiet. The day hasn't really begun yet. This is Kensington Market in Toronto, one of the magnets for people in this city. Lots of cool shops, lots of different kind of immigrants, and great food and cafes. We're reallocating urban space here, just walking up the quiet street. Dave Meslin is an incredibly active Torontonian, to say the least. He's an urbanist, an author, a social entrepreneur, and a creative community organizer. He founded Toronto Cyclist Union, kick-started the local Car-Free Day, and co-founded Spacing Magazine. But most importantly, this is a guy who tells it exactly like it is.
If you think about public spaces, the word public there should mean something. This is our space. This is our canvas. So this is actually Toronto's first authorized road mural. It was designed by people in the community. It's fruits and vegetables, which is really symbolic of the neighborhood. And the most important thing is that most of it was painted by children. It's such a great act of reminding kids that they own the city. This city is our home. Mm-hmm. We can renovate it together. So as soon as you take that paintbrush and do the slightest mark on the ground, for a lot of people, that'll be the first time in their lives that they physically altered something that isn't privately owned. We decorate our homes. We take care of things that we know belong to us. The trick is to get people to have a sense of collective ownership. And once they're reminded that it's theirs, they'll make it better. They do street closures here to pedestrianize the road so frequently that they have a built-in barricade.
Get out, really?
So this car is driving past me right now. If this was the last Sunday of the month, this is a hinge here. They unlock it here. This folds all the way out, halfway, and then another piece swings out to the end. It's not a permanent car-free zone, but the idea of making this car-free is now built in. Okay,
I kind of saw a funny sign at the other end of the market. It said, street closures some Sundays from this time to this time.
Right.
I'm going, which Sundays? Like, it's kind of like, we're going to do it, but we don't really know when.
Right. Everything in Toronto has to be a pilot.
Yeah, right,
so
okay.
City Hall is scared of doing anything that might be too fun or too cool. Yeah. So if you're like, I have a great idea, let's change the city, they're like, I don't know. But if you say, it's a pilot, it's risk-free. They're like, okay, sure. So we call everything a pilot here. You want a bike lane, you want a street closure, it's a pilot.
So the entire city is a pilot for the next 40 years, maybe.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah.
How do you define Toronto's unique urban fingerprint?
I think there's two sides of that coin. One is a real deep conservative risk aversion. So we let other cities try cool stuff, wait 10 years, and then do the same thing half-assed.
Okay.
There's a fear of change, a fear of innovation. The flip side of that is that people are really rebelling against that. And people are organizing and saying, let's lead, let's be innovative. We don't have to wait for other people to do it. Let's do made in Toronto projects. It's all about grassroots. It's all about what people are doing together in their neighborhoods. You need to be able to look at a street and imagine it being different. Imagine it with a bike lane. Imagine it with art.
Dave wants to transform top-down leadership into bottom-up collaboration. On every scale, in every neighborhood, nothing less.
Tags are probably more on the vandalism, ugly side, but they represent something really valuable. Every time someone does this, they're saying, no, this is mine. Yeah. And what we need to do is, when you legalize public art and allow people to do it, they don't do that quick scrawl. They can sit down for 2 hours and create something nicer.
I'm gonna use 2 colors.
Yeah, right, exactly. In a healthy society, you would never have to write your name looking over your back for the cops, because you know that you and your friends have already left your mark in an official way through a participatory budget. So when you create community spaces for people to express themselves, you get diversity, you get innovation, you get community, you get the city. This is what the city is. It's actual human beings. In 1997, where each of the former cities were asked, do you want to amalgamate into one big Toronto, or do you want to keep your city, your life-size city? Everyone voted no. Everyone voted against amalgamation. They didn't want to be part of a mega city, because people want a life-size city. Yeah. They want to know that my city hall is nearby, that my mayor is someone I can actually talk to. It's a real shame, I think, that amalgamation happened, but the answer now isn't to de-amalgamate or just to complain about it. It's to find new ways to create local connections to democracy and to engagements. And then we're part of something called Toronto, which is a larger family of life-size cities.
Torontonians have found many creative ways to reclaim ownership of their city. One of them lies in the transformation of classic ugly hoardings surrounding construction sites into works of art. They do it with the help of the Patch Project.
Right now we've got it laid out in a bunch of different sections. This construction site right here, it's gonna go on the curve on the road side there, which is gonna be really great. It's like a 2,000 square foot installation.
The development industry, traditionally conservative. You know, if you look at it with their perspective, it might be a bad business model, as it were. But what's it like dealing with them?
Honestly, there's been really great uptake. In 2015, the City of Toronto jumped on board and saw this great potential in doing these sort of public art installations in these underused spaces. And they actually enforced a bylaw in 2015 that now requires that all new developments reserve at least 50% of their fencing, of their construction hoarding, for these community-engaged public art projects. It also provides an opportunity for a local emerging artist to exhibit in the public realm.
What effect do you think it has on the public space, on the citizens' perception of the public space?
I think the easiest thing to point to is beautification. It's just nicer to walk by something that you saw being painted, or that's from an artist that's in your community, or something that speaks to you in your day-to-day life, rather than having large words jump out at you.
Hey, Adrian.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, I'm Michael.
Michael, nice to meet you.
Hey, pleasure. You're the artist?
I am, yes.
In residence?
Yes, in residence, exactly.
You're working with local kids here?
Yes, there's some kids here
from this neighborhood.
From the neighborhood.
All right.
That have had an input. Was actually one of the kids that we were working with suggested having this bird in here. So that we put that in, as well as
so it's like her idea.
Animals. Yeah.
I want a toucan.
Yeah,
in my neighborhood, and you made it happen.
Yeah, like
awesome.
that, eh? So every time she leaves, she can see a toucan.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Every day she'll feel ownership in a way, right?
Exactly.
What's the balance between that? You have some ideas in your head, obviously, as an artist, but how much is like your ideas and how much is like local involvement?
Well, for me, I try to explain to them my process, so they know exactly, the steps I go through. So we have a consultation. Consultation will obviously involve the youth, talking about the community and the things that inspire them in the community.
So is it important that you have, that it's not just motorways with trucks on it? I mean, that you have nature and water? And
if you think of the environment, if you just take a visual sweep, it's all very urban, right? So when you have these, again, splash of colors, the quality of life automatically changes, right? The city tries to put in parks and whatnot just to have that influence of nature within our urban environment. So it's a lot of the same.
I like the feel of this kind of neighborhood, urban planning from the 1960s or whatnot. But I mean, you look at the buildings and you're thinking like, man, just paint all of the buildings in this circle here, like some crazy colors, like European cities with that would be
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's we've got to push that agenda in the near future.
You can start now.
You can start right now. Here we go. Opportunity knocks.
It's It's a city of neighborhoods, which I think is super cool. You can literally travel the world on your bicycle or on a single subway ticket. And if you are bored in the city, I would say you're doing it wrong.
Rachel's favorite sport? Talking about Toronto. Born in Washington, D.C., she fell in love with her adopted metropolis and never looked back. There is absolutely no doubt that she calls herself a local.
Wait, I had a chocolate milk at that shop the other day.
Oh, Palmerston Market?
I'm so local.
My local. Oh, hey, that's my food co-op. That's where I go food shopping. Hey, Gabe, small world. How's it going?
Rachel leads me to a private backyard where I lend a hand with grape-picking volunteers, working with a project called Not Far From the Tree. The name really says it all. They pick fruit all over Toronto. Fruit that would otherwise go to waste. And since 2008, well, they've harvested over 113,000 pounds of fruit.
So the way it works is that we show up, we have a volunteer crew, so we do all the hard work, and then at the end, we're gonna look through the fruit, sort it. We're gonna split it 3 ways. So 1/3 is going to go to the volunteers, 1/3 is going to go to the people whose plants these are, and then 1/3 goes to a social agency. And then in turn, they use local food to provide meals for people.
Right.
Yeah, so it's really cool. And it started, I think it was just one woman who had a dream, and no pun intended, but she went for the lowest hanging fruit.
Oh, I see what you did there.
And now it's expanded to this citywide thing. So to grow from, a few backyards where there's some fruit to pick to the entire downtown and then some is pretty cool.
Yeah. How many places do you pick fruit at? Like how many houses, how many people are signed up?
We have about 2,700 people registered with Not Far From the Tree.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
How many people are picking?
How many volunteers? We have about 3,000 fruit pickers registered with us.
All right. Got the bucket.
Got the bucket. You want to throw those in here? Well, not throw. You have to be very delicate because
Yep.
they are grapes. Have you ever made jam or preserves or anything like that?
With my mom.
Your mom?
Yeah.
Back in the old days?
Back in the day.
These are perfect.
No.
We picked them just the right time.
It's like eating grape juice. Like, literally.
It looks like 8 kilos?
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, good job.
Approved.
So that's 8 kilos that otherwise would have just stayed in someone's backyard.
Sticky feet. Where are you taking me now?
So, in my other free time, when I'm not hanging out in trees, I keep my feet on the ground and I volunteer at a garden with Leaf.
Leaf is an NGO that protects the urban forest with all sorts of programs to raise awareness about the city canopy. They range from adopt a street tree to urban gardens near subway stations.
We're behind Bathurst Station, so this is just around the corner from my house. Even though it doesn't really look like it, there's actually a lot of foot traffic from apartment buildings and restaurants and the fact that this is a subway station. So when Leaf was looking to plant gardens around the city, they saw that the TTC, our local subway station or subway network, had land attached to the stations.
Yeah.
So they asked to partner up, and that way these high traffic areas would become a little bit greener.
Right.
And we could also kind of teach people about local plants on their way. So I recommend when you're watering your plants just to kind of put your thumb over it, so that way you can spray a lot of them.
Dude,
Yeah, okay. Working with the professional.
Wrong end?
Toronto's tree canopy is actually 60% privately owned and maintained. So by having this plot and telling people about the importance of pollinators, local plants, and how to care for green spaces, it actually helps a lot and you could say diversifies people's knowledge of Toronto itself.
We top the day off in a park called Dufferin Grove.
Hey guys!
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Bailey.
Hi.
Here, in the vibrant heart of the city, Torontonians soak up what really feels like a country vibe. Laid back around a campfire.
There you go.
And yeah, believe it or not, it's completely legal.
Are you ready for your first s'more?
Yeah. You got your finger in all of these different projects. You're super positive and optimistic about Toronto and what's happening and where it's going. But what does Toronto need? What is the ingredient that will really push Toronto into becoming, a real player on the urbanist field?
I think that one thing that Toronto lacks, for better or for worse, is that there isn't really a solid identity here. Even though we have, 3 million people, there's not one thread that kind of is woven through all of those different identities that are like all of these great citizen-run groups, but they're kind of doing their own thing to address things within their community. I think people would be really proud to be Torontonian very loudly. Having that unification, I think, would help build the city that we want to be for everybody, to make it more of a universal effort. There's still work to be done. I still feel really good, though, that people like living here and they want to contribute to it to make it a better place.
One of the trends we see in urban transport around the world is tram lines being put back in after an absence of many, many decades. Toronto is unique in North America in that they never really got rid of their tram network. And this is an example here. But you can see the problem. Car culture has forced this tram to be stuck in traffic. It completely defeats the purpose with efficient public transport. The good news, however, in this city, on this street, Spadina, the city of Toronto has put in dedicated tramways. That's how we did it for about 100 years. That's what Toronto is doing again, but they need to do it on all of their streets. Besides streetcars, which is what Torontonians call trams, the city is also trying to reduce car congestion with its first new subway project in more than a decade. The 8.6-kilometer Spadina subway extension, although plagued by delays and cost overruns, is set to open very soon. Its ridership is expected to reach 26.3 million people a year. Here's another bold project, the Gardiner. Sure, for now it looks like any other unsightly expressway straight out of another era. The best thing would obviously be to tear the whole thing down. But the city has other plans, and they are quite surprising. So Ken, when the Gardiner Expressway was planned in 1947, built through the 50s and 60s, it surely was regarded as amazing, visionary, modern. What's the perception here in Toronto of it now?
Well, it's interesting. Everybody knows it, but the attention has really shifted from the Gardiner as something to move cars to this amazing 2-kilometer-long urban roof canopy forming a great living room for the city.
Yeah, wow.
We have this space 5 stories high, almost 15 meters high, 24 meters wide, that was just sitting here as a void.
Why don't you just tear it down?
We actually have taken down pieces, and we're going to take down more. But in this particular case, we have what we're calling the gift of the Gardiner, which is this amazing colonnaded, quite beautiful space.
What am I going to see here if I stare down this direction in a couple of years?
There will be a space where people will be doing a whole variety of things. There'll be a cafe, plazas for outdoor activity, including water play, and an 82-meter-long bench so that people will get a view otherwise only available to people who live in the condos.
Imagine a 5-story structure converted to a human-friendly space. This 2-kilometer stretch of the Gardiner will soon house art exhibits, shows, playgrounds, markets, and even a skating rink during the winter. All of this underneath the highway.
So this is where we have this beautiful pedestrian cycle bridge. It'll be suspended from the Gardiner.
Wow. Used by more than 300,000 cars a day, the Gardiner has also been, for decades, a divide between the people and the lake. The Under Gardiner project aims to become a gateway to Toronto's completely renewed waterfront.
Try and describe this space, what it looked like 20 years ago.
This was all industrial. There was heavy rail coming down the street, trucking, warehousing.
Yeah.
This totally changed.
Absolutely. Toronto's waterfront has come a long way since its days as an industrial hub. The city started this massive revitalization project in 1999. And although some areas like this one are completed, the entire renovation, spread out all over the city, will go on for years. This is one of the largest waterfront renewal initiatives on the planet.
This really represents, in my view, the inevitable transformation of the city. The question is not should we, but how. It is the great design challenge of the next 50 years. We're ending up in a beach, and we have several of these on the waterfront now, and people love to come here, like what we're seeing now on a summer evening, watch the sun go down, watch the harbor. And it's just part of that simple enjoyment of the city.
Right.
If you provide places like this in the fabric of the city, suddenly it becomes adhesive. Mm-hmm. It becomes something that people can just appropriate for whatever they want to do.
Suddenly, it hit me. I had been walking the streets of Toronto for several days, and I had hardly seen any public benches, or anywhere to sit, for that matter. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who saw this as a problem.
Really, it started off as a joke on Twitter. We were talking about how there's a lack of public seating in Toronto, and how somewhere like this could use a bench or two or some public seating. And then soon enough, we started taking pictures and hashtagging them, #SitTO. And then before you know it, we were gathering around for drinks, and we thought, what can we do to improve the state of public seating in Toronto?
They came up with a simple idea. Chairs. Simple folding chairs. Put them in the city, and people will sit on them. Because a city, as I like to point out to everyone who will listen, isn't just about getting from A to B.
Already.
They're already doubling up.
Okay, like they're gonna break it.
Already crowded. Let's bring some over.
Picture I sent you.
You guys need more chairs? Just feel free to move them around.
Thank you.
Okay.
It seems our group has come and gone now, and that's the beauty of this as well, is people come, just sit momentarily, and then leave again.
You just take a load off. That's all you need, you know?
Exactly.
How do you choose a location? Do you have like standard locations that you always use, or do you freestyle?
A really big theme of our group is that we have an idea, we see the potential, we just run with it. There's nothing, we're very unstructured. We didn't know each other before this. We just started talking on Twitter. Hey, there's potential for public seating at Nathan Phillips Square, at David Pico Square, here, there, right here. We don't even have a name for this spot. We just see that there's potential for public seating. Let's set up.
We did start off with a map that we all sort of put together privately, just to sort of figure out great places that we can have some of these seats. Some of the places that people sort of would point out on Twitter, we'd say, hey, let's drop it into the map. And we asked people to be able to contribute sort of places they show as good examples of seating, and other places that show, where they could use some more seating. And we think that having sort of this large now data set of information would be good to then bring to the people at City Hall and say, hey, you know what? People are saying they want seating here. They're even showing pictures of it. Maybe you should consider bringing some seating over here.
It seems like people don't even know the potential of public seating at this point. So I guess our purpose is to get the conversation going.
I'm about to meet some urban legends that I secretly admire more than almost anybody else. Hey, man.
Hey. Nice to meet you.
And you, pleasure.
Good. My name is Martin, but you can call me Tino.
Tino, nice to meet you, Tino. Explain to me the Urban Repair Squad.
All right, the Urban Repair Squad started out as an antidote to the poison that is the car in Toronto. People grew really frustrated with a bike lane being launched in 2001, and by 2004, 2005, not a single bike lane having been painted. Mm-hmm. And they just went out and did it themselves. In 2007, they painted more bike lanes than the city of Toronto on no budget. Mm-hmm. And they basically released press releases saying that we can do this ourselves. You guys say that you're broke, we fix, no charge.
You talk about it being as art and installations.
Yeah.
I find that really interesting. What, are we sneaking down here?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we try to keep it interesting and keeping it fresh. So we'll do things like a Lego bike lane, or put funny cartoon symbols and exclamations like bang, wow, next to a giant pothole,
right.
and giant murals of a bike lane, sort of like a Wile E. Coyote that goes into a wall.
Right.
Another one with, penny farthing symbols. Another one, and two other ones were just basically a simple sort of what we call a rush hour bike lane. We would paint it during rush hour between the cars and then put the lane in. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And here's some people from the group.
Oh, they're all like coming out of the bushes in the back alley here. It's awesome, man.
I think they're ready to go.
Is this the headquarters?
Yeah.
What are you doing? You got to explain to me what you guys are gonna be doing here tonight.
Well, there are signs up all over this neighborhood, like there are on many residential streets, that direct cars to max to a maximum of 40 kilometers an hour.
On these narrow streets here in Kensington.
Well, that's just it. You see, like even on an ordinary residential street, our city has mandated that 40 is too fast. But Kensington Market, if you've been here, the reality is that all these stoners eating multi-culti street food are just walking all over the place, right? It's a place where pedestrians rule and block traffic with their bodies constantly. So we're just doing the car drivers a little favor by directing them to slow down to 10 kilometers an hour. And maybe, that way when they hit a longboarder or something, they won't stain their hood with blood or anything like that. I think we're ready to head out.
Yeah. All right, lead the way.
Let's go. In the past, it has been hectic, where we'll wait for the perfect weather conditions, we'll get the road quality paint, and we'll go out at 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, that sort of thing.
Did the city of Toronto make a task force to go out and clean up after you guys? Were you having such a massive impact, or was that an urban legend?
No, they didn't have to do that. In fact, they went out and put the official bike lane in after we put the fake one. So we kind of nudged them into doing it, right?
Or shoved anyway, right?
Exactly.
Uh-oh, I see a sign.
So yeah, this is the first one.
City of Toronto, work here. Step back.
That's about as flush as it gets.
Anybody ever call the police on you guys?
We never stuck around long enough to find out.
All right, so should you just leave it and see how long it lasts and then say we did this for 2 weeks or whatever?
No, it's always a question. If you just leave it up, chances are it's going to stay up for a very long time because nobody's going to question it. It looks pretty legit. Yeah. And we've had installation stuff that's been up for 2 years and we said nothing except having a little party, for ourselves. Yeah. If you change the status quo and you render the old status obsolete, nobody's going to complain because it's so much better, right?
So this one, we're on a major street, Spadina. Now that we've done our first install and it looks good and we're happy with it, we're now going for more of the heat score. So we're going to be kind of quick and low-key and official looking. So let's see how it works.
Maximum 10 begins.
I like that. We're good. Let's move it along.
And they're off. Super quick. I don't know. I've never met him before.
Hey, what's going on? That woman's kind of onto us. She's like, is this for real? She was questioning the legitimacy of it and suggested that, like a real city worker, we should just hang out and drink coffee and smoke cigarettes. But I think we can continue now, yeah?
We can continue. All right.
All right, this one's a big hot spot, so let's...
Yeah, you got a lot of good light there.
Make sure you're... Oh, this one's great with the light above it.
I know.
I'm very happy about this one.
Brother.
Job well done. You have to sometimes ask forgiveness later rather than permission before.
That's your city motto. I think that's awesome.
All right, beer o'clock?
Beer o'clock.
Let's go.
Yeah, all right.
Toronto is second only to New York in North America for the number of high-rises. A high-rise is defined by being 12 stories or higher. And you can see it all over the landscape here, stretching out into the distance, clusters of high-rises. It's really a unique situation for a North American city. You can really see that they put a focus on creating density, creating nodes of density around the city, not just banking on the one big downtown. Something that makes Toronto very, very unique in the North American context.
This is Thorncliffe Park. Designed in 1955, it was the first planned apartment neighborhood in North America. Toronto ended up building many just like this one. Initially built as upscale housing, it eventually became the only affordable landing pad for newcomers to Canada. It is now one of the most culturally diverse neighborhoods in the world.
It has the most children under 12 of any neighborhood in the city. So it's like a total inversion, right? Like, where do most kids live? It's not in a cul-de-sac neighborhood. It's here. This is youth. This is the future of the city. This is the future of the country. there's this amazing kind of gray economy that makes these places work, like where to get your haircut, where to get great food, someone to do your taxes. Like these,
Inside one of the flats.
Yeah, there's all these sort of like interesting things happening, and it's starting to finally spill over, into the public realm and into the park. Is there opportunity? Are there services? Can people start jobs? Can people get to work? Do people feel like they're part of a community?
So we've been walking all around this neighborhood, and I just saw a convenience store. That is like the first shop I've seen. You talked about the gray economy, but I mean, where are the supermarkets? Where are, the places where you would buy stuff? I mean, that's just a small convenience store.
So that's totally it. So these neighborhoods were built in the 50s and 60s. And in the 50s and 60s, the idea was everyone drove a car, right? But now, because of the fact that like most of the people who live here don't own cars, that it's hugely inconvenient, especially in winter, to do a 20 half-hour drive to the grocery store. And the zoning for these neighborhoods is actually like still written from the 1950s that says not only is there not a grocery store, but it's illegal to have one. There's hundreds of people live in this building, hundreds of people live in this building, and we have a parking lot. We don't have anything else.
Oh, sorry. Hello.
All of these neighborhoods have the potential to be like this, but this neighborhood in the last 5 years has totally transformed. So you see all these towers and all these thousands of people, and now because of all the stuff happening here, this is what happens on a Friday night. And so it's incredibly exciting, and it's because of the work of one woman who arrived here a few years ago, sort of said, I'm not satisfied with the way things are, and then kind of just made this happen. Look at this.
Hello.
This looks so good.
Good.
Hey, Sabina.
Sabina, Michael. So this is your show.
This is our very famous park bazaar model, I can say, yeah.
Wow, I mean, it's amazing. The life here, the families, the kids, I'm amazed at this place.
Before Sabina Ali took matters into her own hands, this park was simply a no man's land, absolutely covered in garbage. It was as far from a playground as you can possibly get.
I was a little disappointed because the country I come from, and looking at my childhood,
Which is
India.
Where? India, okay.
Yeah. And I had a beautiful park in my childhood, but I thought my children are lacking that opportunity. And we got the residents involved to have their say about what they would like to see in the park. A long list we had. A lot of items. The first thing that the city addressed was the garbage bins. So we celebrated getting the garbage bins in the park by doing the park cleanup.
I don't know if anybody's ever celebrated getting garbage cans before. I think you might have been the first, but that's a why not?
After 8 years, you see like the renovated splash pad. We have a water fountain. We have these new light poles in the park.
Yeah.
So, and we also got the electric outlets so that we can use it for the food vendors.
Yeah.
You feel like you're in a market square anywhere in the world.
Oh, squint your eyes, yeah, you could be anywhere. So there must be people from a lot of different countries here.
Yeah, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, now even from Syria.
From
and
Syria.
Roma community too, especially the little kids come and hang around in the park. We thought like we should have a permanent tandoor oven that represents the South Asian culture and heritage of this neighborhood.
There's kids everywhere. How you doing, guys? I've understood that this is the first and maybe only tandoor oven in a park in all of North America.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did you celebrate that?
Yes, of
all right.
course.
Oh, can I learn how to make bread?
Sure.
Are you going to teach me? Yep. Like
And
this.
then
all right,
again.
I'm on it. Like that?
Yeah.
Has this park changed the neighborhood?
A lot. After the long winter, they start asking me like, when are we going to start the market in the park? When you look at the neighborhood, right, it's a food desert in the Thorncliffe Park Drive. You don't even see a single cafeteria here.
No, yeah.
So,
Yeah, we only saw like one convenience store when we were walking around. Is this mine?
Yeah.
Does it look okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, me?
Yes. Oh, wow.
Oh, my God. Slap it hard. I stick it in and slap it, right?
Yeah, be careful. Oh,
Okay.
not your other
No.
hand.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Just
Yeah.
pass.
Oh,
All right.
awesome.
Hey.
Having the market in the park, this is a key to bring people together.
Canada gets a lot of immigrants from everywhere. You just don't see this kind of environment really anywhere in the world where it's just one big mishmash of nationalities, age groups. Everybody's just hanging in the park that Sabina built. It's like I made it myself. Off to meet the chief planner for the city of Toronto, Jennifer Keesmaat, and I borrowed some chairs from our good friends at CityO. We're going to a big public square. I don't know if there's benches. I don't know if there's anywhere to sit. So I thought it was appropriate to bring some bottom up to meet the top down. So you ride your bike every day?
Almost every day, yep.
All right, here's our studio,
Okay,
Jennifer.
voila.
Okay, so you're the chief planner for the city of Toronto. You have to tell me, how in the world do you chief plan a city the size of Toronto?
It's challenging in part because we're growing so quickly. We are the fastest growing city in North America, which makes it very difficult to actually pause and sit back and say, we did that well, let's do it a little differently next time. Because we're just moving from one project to another at a very, very rapid pace. You know, people are falling off the sidewalks, as you've probably seen, because we've added a tremendous amount of density into the core of our city in a really short period of time. When I became chief planner, I was actually looking at the challenge of planning a city of this scale, and I was feeling really overwhelmed. And I realized that so many of the great things happening in this city, they didn't start in the halls of power. They actually started at the grassroots level. So opening up City Hall, it's something that's, you know, it ebbs and flows. There's been moments, I think, when City Hall has been very open and less open. And of course, I'm in that tradition and that school that recognizes the value of making City Hall as open as possible and welcoming the ideas and the community into the process.
How much of your work is planning and how much of it is fixing?
I would actually say, to be honest, that a good portion of it is about trying to fix. You know, cycling wasn't viewed as a form of transportation in this city until very, very recently. It was always really seen as something for radicals or recreation, but it wasn't viewed as a critical part of our transportation infrastructure. As we make that shift, we need to fix the streets. You need to fix them because they've been designed for cars. And so now they need to be designed for pedestrians. They need to be designed for cyclists. They need to be designed for lingering.
How much inspiration can you draw from other cities around the world and make it your own?
We actually have something very unique and very special here. But we do for sure in Toronto have an inferiority complex. We always want to know that someone else did it first in Toronto.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So if I'm standing in front of City Council, there's no point saying, you know, this is a bold idea that's never been tried before. Instead, I'll stand in front of City Council and say, well, this is similar to Millennium Park in Chicago. Talking about our rail deck park.
Right.
Drawing parallels to other places does bring the blood pressure down around this town.
Okay, that's super fascinating.
It is super fascinating. It can be intensely frustrating because it becomes difficult to really bring new ideas to the fore.
I'm thrilled that there's so many pilot projects here in Toronto. But back to thinking about the scale of this city, how many years before two planners like you and me will look at North York and go, yeah, that's pretty awesome?
Well, I'll answer that by telling you a little story, which is that this incredible boom that we see in the downtown core that is resulting in the liveliness of our squares and our streets, that is as a result of an area plan that was created 40 years ago. Wow. It takes a long time. You don't change a place overnight. The reality is there's little incremental change happening everywhere. Right now, a lot of it's going into the downtown core because we've got the millennials who want to live close to work and want to be able to walk to work. That's
and
what's
bike.
happening.
And
bike.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, 75% of the people that live in the downtown core walk or cycle to get to work every day. That's great for the city. It's great for an overall objective, which is reducing our environmental footprint.
75% of the population living in the heart of the city and walking or biking to work? Yeah, that's awesome. But like in most North American cities, there's another Toronto. One where it's just about impossible to live without a car. The suburbs. Willowdale, Mississauga, Scarborough. If you don't have a car, these are places that you might never see. With a suburban population greater than its urban population, car culture has often dominated the city's planning agenda. More than 450,000 people commute to the city center each and every day, and it takes them an average of 32 minutes, the longest commute of any Canadian city. Suresh Das knows all about it. He grew up in Scarborough, and although he now lives downtown, this food writer comes back several times a week just to eat. Because it's where many newcomers settle, thanks to a lack of affordable housing downtown, it's also where the most authentic and diverse food scene in Toronto hides.
So this is some Persian ice cream from this bakery behind us here. It's a pistachio ice cream with saffron.
With saffron?
With saffron.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is absolutely amazing.
I'm in. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's smooth and nice. The classic urban dynamic is that people come from the suburbs to the city center to work or to entertain themselves, you know, and then they go back to the suburbs. You're actually doing the opposite, trying to bring people from the city out here to Scarborough. Is there a general connect or a disconnect in the greater Toronto area with the downtown and places like Scarborough?
There's a huge disconnect because, well, it's not easy to get to with public transport. And I think most people that live in the city, because of that disconnect with transportation, if you don't have a car, you're not coming out here to explore and eat, right? I mean, you have everything you need downtown. Why would you ever come up here? So my goal is to bridge that gap by physically fitting people in a car, bringing them up here, driving them here, so they don't have to worry about getting around. We can hit more places in one afternoon than they could over a weekend by using public transportation. So, I mean, this plaza, for example, we can drive up here in under 30 minutes from downtown.
So you're the adhesive between Scarborough and Toronto. You're kind of just forcing them together, and food is the conduit.
The interesting thing about this place is that you get a spectrum of people that come here for lunch. People drive from downtown or from other parts of the city. Can we do a mixed plate? Yes. Beef and chicken and some falafel on the side?
So we're in what, for me, looks like a standard North American strip mall along a huge artery out in the suburbs. But this is a food destination. People drive from all over the place just to come here because this is apparently the best shawarma for miles around.
Scarborough has an interesting story with streets. Lawrence Avenue East, between a certain street and a certain street, is Middle Eastern. It's all Middle Eastern. The Israelis next to the Lebanese, next to the Syrian, next to Jordanians, getting along very, very well. Oh yeah. There is no such thing as like this exclusivity or standoffishness. You go to a place like here and you look around and there are tons of people from different backgrounds. Yeah, population of Scarborough is just over 500,000 and over 50% is international. 20 or 30% is specifically Southeast Asian. It's one of those things where like there's a domino effect where, you families move in and they settle somewhere where they can afford housing, and then other families follow suit. Like first wave of Ethiopians and Somalians settled near the airport, and now there's so many of them there.
Hey.
Hey, bud.
How's it going? Hey, Michael. Hi. This family operation opened its doors in 2015. The Aleppo exiles, two brothers and their mother, made Scarborough their home. Many of their dishes are inspired directly by their grandfather's cooking in their native Syria.
This idea of the best food being in Scarborough is totally true because this is where people like Ismail set up shop. Yeah. It's their home, it's their community, and they're making food, from the heart. I mean, there's a lot of love that goes into some of the stuff.
So we got here wardi. Wardi means flour, and the harissa.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
I told you I'm not a dessert guy, but I think I might be after visiting Scarborough.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Okay, good to hear.
This is not a life-sized part of the city. This is a strip mall in a North American suburb next to an ocean of asphalt. Inside unlikely businesses like these, food is the common denominator between cultures. It is the adhesive that brings Scarborough and places like it closer to downtown Toronto. I would never have come to Scarborough if not for the food. This is the epicenter of the Canadian melting pot, right here, and it is delicious. When Dave Meslin called to suggest that we tear down a fence together as an act of citizenship, I was surprised, to say the least. But Dave is as persuasive as he is charming.
Mr. Meslin. Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
This is our victim here today.
Right there. All fences must die.
They're all a little bit different. This one looks pretty easy.
It's just a little green fence, man. What's the big deal?
Well, first of all, I genuinely think they're ugly.
Okay, I'll
and
give
I
you
think
that.
beauty is something that we should value more in our cities. But I also genuinely think that they're evil.
Evil?
Evil, in terms of what they represent. We think of the fence as keeping something out, but I think it also keeps something in, right? So people will be like, I'm gonna take care of my house, I'm gonna take care of my lawn, and then boom, this is the fence. Everything outside of that fence, that's for someone else to take care of. And the real key to getting people more engaged and playing a part in how we shape our cities is to get them to take down that mental barrier in their mind that separates the private from the public. And this fence is a physical manifestation of that barrier.
I'm just talking to my neighbor across the fence. What's the big deal? I mean, like, I can see you. I can see your feet.
I've got to show you something. Come here.
All right.
I gotta show you.
All right.
See how far you have to go?
Okay.
See? Didn't that feel like, where are you going? If that fence wasn't there, you would have just walked with me.
Yeah, right.
Like, it is a barrier. Like, why did you have to walk that way to join me that way? I mean, it is a fence. I mean,
I could have leapt like a gazelle over the fence.
That would have been
I'm not
really
insured
cool.
for that, am I? No.
I think cities of gazelles should have fences, but cities of humans should not.
How many fences have you
I've been working on this project for 15 years.
15 years.
And I've lost track of how many fences we've done, but we've done them all across the city. And when I first proposed it to my friends, they said, that's a really stupid idea. If people wanted their fence down, they would be down. But I did it anyways. I put flyers on fences. Free fence removal. You know, it listed all these philosophical ideas of why open neighborhoods look and feel better than closed neighborhoods. Give us a call, we'll take down your fence, and the phone started ringing, and I've been doing it ever since.
Now, the lady who lives here, she was saying that they just bought the house, they're renovating the house, and she just looked at this fence and said, what a stupid fence. And they were talking about it, and then Dave shows up.
I think there's something really fun just about altering the environment around you. There's something really empowering about feeling like your neighborhood isn't static.
Okay.
And
hello.
Oh, wow. Or yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
I've got the power.
You almost don't even have to say anything. It just feels so much more welcoming. It's a better space now.
I mean, I haven't just drunk the Kool-Aid. I mean, I can see it. You know, the barriers are gone.
Yeah. I think it's about having an optimistic view of the way that humans can interact. When you say good fences make good neighbors, it's almost based on this premise that people can't really get along.
Yeah.
What a terrible way to think about cities, right?
Yeah.
So this is turning that totally around and saying, no, the best fence is no fence. And let's see what happens when we do try and interact with that neighbor.
There are 250 kilometers of laneways in Toronto. And unfortunately, most of them are just wall-to-wall asphalt, garbage bins, and parking spaces. But look, there's hope. This community near Christie Pitts Park, with the help of the Laneway Project, decided to rethink their urban space.
They're really, for a long, long time, the laneways have been thought of sort of officially just as purely service spaces for car access, garage access, maybe garbage access, but they haven't been thought of as complete spaces or even as potential complete spaces. So that's sort of the gap that we think needs filling in the city. The City of Toronto has that reputation. It's very conservative. We thought that it was going to be a bit of an uphill battle for us, but we found very, very early on, even as we were forming as an organization, that people within transportation services, which is the department with explicit jurisdiction over laneways, they're on board. I think that the thing is that it's sort of the sweet spot at the moment with Toronto. Our population has grown to the extent that people from the grassroots to the City Hall level are realizing that we actually kind of need to sort of do more and branch out and do things a bit more in a bit more of an innovative sense than we have done in the past.
So it's a little bit tough to dig in.
What is this clay?
Yeah, there's a little bit of topsoil on top, and then there's a bit of clayey stuff.
Oh, just loosen it, you said?
Yeah, so just loosen it up. So the hope is some of the wildflowers actually take. So if you come back next spring, we're hoping for, river of flowers.
I mean, they're plants. They're gonna, like, how high are they gonna grow? It's
So they're all low-lying ground cover.
Okay.
So some could grow higher, but often they're gonna be run over every day, so, by bikes and cars.
But how many, do a lot of people use the laneway with cars here?
They do. So all of these garages are where folks park their cars.
They use them, actually.
Yeah.
So can you tell me how a project like this has changed the neighborhood? I mean, was it like an awesome big group hug before and now it's just better? Or, I mean, has it had an effect?
Yeah, so the effect right now you're seeing, it's all the folks and a lot of people I don't know, like you. I met you today. Hi. So neighbors that I haven't met. I've been living in the neighborhood for 10 years and I know a lot of the neighbors, but not all the neighbors. So it just gives us an opportunity to come back in the back of our houses and have a bit of a celebration.
I'm sitting here trying to digest the wild ride I've had here in Toronto, and all I'm thinking is, what is this place? When you come from a Nordic capital like I do, you know that by and large the municipal government is going to take your best interests into consideration. There's not a big need for bottom-up influencing of the policymakers. Things are different here. You have a city government that is bravely trying to respond to all the massive urban challenges that they face. It's like they're trying to mix and sample everything into a coherent track. But what amazes me here is the fantastic gallery of citizens who are dictating the music. I've never seen this level of community engagement anywhere in the world. I don't know if I found out if Toronto was special, but the people who live here are what make this city incredibly unique. I don't know if Toronto knows what it is or who it is, but this is certainly a city that knows where it wants to go.